Okay, folks, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you very much for coming out for our first Evolve conference in San Francisco. We had a conference in Boston last October. This is our first West Coast appearance for Evolve. We do have a very full agenda today, so I am going to go ahead and introduce Faris Abu, who is president of ENOR and very active in DAA in San Francisco and nationally, and the chair of the Evolve conference and generally a great mentor and friend and luminary within the analytics industry. So please give Faris a warm welcome.
Thank you, Eric. All right, well, glad to be here. Glad to make it. All right. So, first of all, I want to thank our partners in planning this event, Rising Media. They also plan events, right? So a lot of events around the Bay Area and nationally and internationally. And special thanks to Alan in the back. It's been a long 3-day stretch for him, so thank you so much. Also want to thank our guest speakers, our customers, and also our ENORians. A lot of them out here. Shiraz, my friend, longtime friend, my co-founder of ENOR. Aladdin is here, of course. A bunch of others are on their way. They went to get lunch. They're supposed to be helping out here. But anyhow, the good thing about us being here, ENOR, is we can help you with a lot of questions. We have senior consultants, we have technicians, analysts. So if you have any questions in the break, we have a table outside to the left. Please stop by and hopefully we'll be able to answer any of your questions. We also have a number of Googlers. So hello, Krista, hello, Jesse, hello, of course, Adam. Who else? So thank you all for being here. Just before I hand it off to Adam, I thought I'll just share a couple things. You know, many of us have been around the industry for a long time, and it used to be, I think it used to be simple. It used to be one channel, one device, one conversion, right? Get an email, I click on it, I go to the site, I buy or search, and I'm done. Today, it's a bit more complex. We live in a multi-channel, multi-device world. So it brings a lot of, it's pretty exciting because we have access to information wherever we are, on our tablet, on our iPad, on our phone, at home, at work. But it does make it a bit more challenging for marketers and also for analysts. So, but it's a reality that we need to be aware of. And so just like the technology is advancing, digital marketing is, analytics is also evolving and has evolved. And the good thing is, because this is a Google Analytics conference, a few years ago, Google Analytics maybe wasn't perceived as the enterprise-ready platform. But just we do an annual study, and we see this is in November 2014 that over 63 or 67% of the Fortune 500 they're using Google Analytics. It used to be 40-some%, maybe 3 years ago. Even in government, I think in the top orange was the new old black, new black, still strong. Orange is strong. So you see, I think the vast majority, over 70% of top government sites around the globe using Google Analytics. Even we have presence in the MENA region, in Dubai, in Europe. You see almost all domination. So we love the product, we love the platform, and it's not what it used to be. And the platform has evolved to a certain to where it can handle some of the most complex challenges we have today. Things like attribution, things like connecting the dots between different data sources. So for example, if you are a large advertiser and you have double click, you can see not only the visits to your sites from the display campaigns, but also you can see the impression data. You can see the site, the placement, down to the creative, and you can connect all of those in one interface. You can also, there's some data-driven attribution modeling that's available to us. This is on the premium version of GA. So the platform has evolved a lot. We still see some of our clients, some of our friends still focused on page views and visits. I mean, those are okay, they're okay to use, that's how we all started in this field. But we really need to, all of us, we need to champion these efforts within our organizations. We need to evolve our practices, our processes, our use of the technology Things like advanced e-commerce, for those of you out there who use e-commerce. There's this game with universal analytics. It used to be, I think for almost maybe 8 years, the e-commerce module in Google Analytics did not change at all. Over the last couple of years, now you can do a lot of things. You can measure not just the conversion and maybe the average order value, but all the way from when the product was actually seen on your site, the product impression, to add to cart, to every step of the funnel, all the way to checkout. So that's available. It does require some implementation work. It does require some instrumentation. You have to be friends with your IT teams and make sure they can allow you to put the JavaScript on your sites or your apps. But also the Google Tag Manager is there for you to help. It will make us a bit less dependent on IT, and we don't have to bug them as much. So a lot of things are going on in the platform. Another one is, oops, I used to do, crashed. Oops.
You should be using Google Docs first.
I used to blame it on the Mac. I converted to the Mac 2 years ago, so I can't do that. Sorry about that. And we use Google Apps, so we're a customer. Sorry about that. Also, in terms of beyond just web analytics and mobile analytics, to address some of these challenges where we have users come in and convert, become a lead on a website, say in a B2B environment. And then all that activities, once they convert and once they are in our CRM, maybe in a Marketo or an Alcor, maybe in a Salesforce sort of ecosystem, how do we understand where they came from, what pages they viewed, what content they consumed, what channels brought them to us? So connecting the dots between these different data sources. Again, you can have very granular data, raw data, including sequencing, sort of timestamp every hit on a site or within an app. You can then stitch this data with your back-end data, maybe do some correlation with your social analytics data. So all of that is available to us. It's not just logging into an interface and find all these insights. It does require some process, it does require some work, but we have the technology for us to leverage. And the core thing, I think, in addition to the technology, and we'll hear a lot about the technology today, about the Google Tag Manager, we also have some use cases, how some of our clients are leveraging the platforms, is I think core to this is process and people. I mean, to get to this clean and comprehensive data, there's a lot that's going on. And you don't have to boil the ocean all at once. You can put a roadmap to help you. Maybe today I need to do an audit and make sure I have a solid foundation. Next week I have to look at my user segments. I have members, non-members, buyers, non-buyers, whatever your business model is. So part of, I think, what we want to convey in this afternoon is that technology is very important, but also process and people knowing what to do. So hopefully, from listening to some real case studies from the trenches, will give you some insight that you can take home with you. A couple more slides and I'll be done. And one other thing, some of you might have seen this on our site, is a framework to have analytics as a business process. So a lot of times we see clients and our friends in the industry who think of analytics as a sort of a one-time project, one-off project. I'll hire a consultant, or I'll get a contractor, or I'll do some implementation and I'm done. It's a little bit more involved, especially in a multi-channel, multi-device world. So there's a lot. This is more common than one would think and one would like to see. A lot of times data is incomplete. And I'm just talking about web and mobile data. A lot of data is incomplete, inaccurate. Someone left the company and we have no idea how the implementation, what these events mean or what the goals are. There's no governance. We don't know who has access to our Google Analytics account. Or worse, somebody's just deleted our account. We've heard it all, trust me. So again, starting with a bit of a business and a marketing discussion, what are the segments that are important to the business? Who are the stakeholders? Is it just the demand generation team? Is it the product team? Is it the executives? Know who the stakeholders are, and ask them what are the questions that you don't have answers for. And then let that drive your implementation, which then will lead to reporting, automation, and then start to do to do true analysis and effective analysis, you need to have a solid implementation. You need to have your reports, your KPIs in order, and then you can segment your users. You can do some personalization and truly impact the business. So keep that in mind. It's not just about the technology, although the technology is very important, but it's also about process and people. And last but not least, and I hope this is practical. This is a sample roadmap of something you can do and you can build in-house and obviously drill down into. But again, don't try to, especially if you're a new director of marketing at an enterprise and you want to come in and just make sure you bite what you can chew, and then put a roadmap of what are the top priorities today. What is the low-hanging fruit? Before I can do maybe a customer 360 and connect Salesforce and social and mobile and web, maybe I can just start with maybe understand my channels and maybe some user engagement with those channels. So create a roadmap, understand the capabilities of the technology, and then create a roadmap to help you get to where you want to be, where we're going to be. It might take you 6 weeks, it might take you 6 months, it might take you a year and a half, really depending on your environment, your stakeholders, your budgets, your resources. But do plan for where you want to get to and have resources. It really does, and this is not a self-serving, this is not a sales pitch. We're just offering what we've learned. You need people. If we have executives here, you need to enable your analytics team, your marketing team to have staff to have ton on their calendars to actually work on this stuff. It doesn't just by slapping some JavaScript on an app or on a website, you don't get analytics, you don't get insight. It does require a fair amount of process and people. So I hope that you find this useful. I hope you can take it and build on it. And feel free to chat with myself or Eric or one of our consultants to maybe help you in your environment. I do want to just end with one thing, and that is I'm really. A lot of you here, especially locally, you see me speaking around and all that, but I really owe 99% of what I do is to the team at Keynote. We have some amazing talent, super responsive, super go-getters in every aspect of the business. So I want to, you see me around here, and I'm the chair of the conference and whatnot, but I owe all of it, most of it, 99% of it to the team. So I really appreciate everybody who's here from Keynote. I know you guys are a humble bunch, including this Harvard graduate here who's very humble, with honors as well. He always reminds me that.
High honors.
High honors, okay. All right, so no, truly, we couldn't make it without the effort of the team. So thank you again. I hope you enjoy the afternoon, and be happy to introduce Adam now. And I think we won't have time, so let me get Adam over. So you all know Adam. Who doesn't know Adam? All right. If you're on Twitter, you have to know Adam Singer. He's a Google Analytics advocate. He's also very active on Twitter and social. He's a musician as well. What else? Well, he'll tell you a little bit more about himself.
Thanks, Faros. I think that you did like half of my presentation there, so really makes things easy for me. I might even skip a few slides. So how is everyone today? Good? Awesome. Well, I thought I would start with a quick video. A lot of times people get really bogged down in charts, graphs, and sometimes use data as a way to hide from users, but I wanted to share just a quick video showing that actually data should bring you closer to your users. So, let's see it.
You sure? Yeah. Username? Nick Adam? No. And then 1983? No. Zanny Pops? Zanny Pops? No, okay. Don't worry about it. What's your postcode? Oh, it's GU74190ZT. Welcome back, Nick, forever. Please listen carefully to the spread light of the screen before continuing your personal overgrade. If you do not, blah, blah, blah. You also agree not to use any replaced borrow for any purposes prohibited by US law, including without limitation, design, development, manufacture of missiles, chemical, nuclear, or biological weapons. Tick. I'm afraid you've timed out. What? Sorry. Hello? Excuse me? Oh, yeah, hi. Just one minute, sir. Yeah, just what's your username? It's Nick Forever, but number 4. Gotcha. Okay, just going to check that you're a real person. Could you stay down? How about this one? You don't want to forget it. This one? Hey, what's advice? You're in. Great, I'm in. £8.85. It's supposed to be right here, Dan. That's express delivery. What's that? Oh, well, it's express delivery. It's fast. There's standard. Standard limit. That's £4.39. Why? Rent insurance. You didn't want to take the don't decline rent insurance option. You know what? I think I'll risk it. It is quite close to the sum. I don't care. 98 pence it is. But if you want to pop back in 5 business days, it'll be ready for your collection. Well, I need it now, obviously. Oh, okay. You want the take home today price? That's £3.27. You know I'm going to go. Come back soon.
So, I mean, the takeaway from that I love is really to use analytics as a way to get closer to your users, as a way to, empathize with them. How many of you guys have abandoned a shopping cart because the experience sucked, right? All hands. So, really, you guys have gone through a shitty shopping cart? You must have really wanted that eBay auction or that product or something. But you really should be using data to understand where your users' frustrations are, because you can have all the most awesome marketing in the world, and then you bring people to a bad experience, and they don't convert, and you've just wasted money. I don't think, the AdWords team at Google wants that. I don't think your clients want that. You want to make sure that your experience is awesome before you turn on the fire hose of all this great marketing that we do. So why are you guys listening to me? A friend of mine, Peter Shankman, who speaks a lot, does a slide like this in his presentation, so I stole it a few years ago. I think it's good to provide context. In addition to being at Google, before Google, I've actually sat in your guys' shoes. I was a marketing director as well as marketing manager at several agencies in San Francisco and Minneapolis and in Miami before ultimately deciding to join the board and work on Google Analytics. So I sat in your shoes as well. As an analytics advocate at Google, basically I'm your advocate in the industry, from everything from answering questions about my product to just helping you be a better marketer. My colleague Krista in the back is another analytics advocate. So if you have questions after this, feel free to bother me or her. If you want to talk about Google Analytics Premium, I'm sure Jesse, who's sitting right next to Krista, would be happy to answer any questions. So that's enough about me. Every day your business is having tons of conversations with users. And when I say conversations, I mean all of your communications with users, whether it's an AdWords ad, whether it's a Facebook ad, or an email, or a tweet. It's really hard to understand which of those conversations are effective and which of those conversations are bringing conversions and bringing you closer to new business and new revenue. And that's where analytics can really start to shed light on this stuff, right? You really want to make sure you're not sending the wrong message to the wrong person at the wrong time, because you're just going to upset someone, right? The marketing world has really been flipped on its head, where when you're searching for something and you want something at that moment of intent, you expect to find it. But when you get annoyed with a not relevant ad at a time where you don't want an ad, or it's just not relevant for you, it can just be frustrating, and that can leave a negative brand perception. And then what happens with those ads that they weren't a fit, right? You might take a screen grab and write a blog post or tweet to your friends, wow, this company is so clueless. For example, if you post to social media and this actually happened. I watched the NRA, I think the National Rifle Association, the big gun association, had a whole big promotion about gun freedom on the day that there was a massive school shooting last year. And I watched it unfold, and they ended up on Gawker. There was a New York Times blog post about it, etc. So, you can have the wrong message at the wrong time because of something that happens in major news. Now, I'm not a gun supporter at all, but they should be aware of that type of thing, right? So you want to be aware of that too. So at Google Analytics, we really want to help you have better measurement for better results, so you do send the right messages to the right people, and you are measuring it appropriately, and you can have budget allocated to the right things. So let's talk about metrics first. Shared KPIs really exist, and you probably have, a sales team, a marketing team, a finance team, maybe a product team, and they all want different metrics, and that's okay. You can have different groups use different metrics, but you definitely want to start to share metrics and socialize them across the organization, and Enor can certainly help out with that. You know, certainly you want to give a marketing VP a different report than a sales VP or someone on the product team, but wouldn't it be so great if you share insights across functions? And you might find that there's some great things to uncover that you might not have seen that another group has. And so the way you do that is you start to break down your data silos. So if you have data silos organizationally, really ask yourself why they exist. And from my time as a consultant, I would see again and again the companies that were transparent, that were willing to share data between teams and between groups, was 10x more successful than companies where you might have one group that's just hoarding all of this data, right? So you find that single source of truth and you share it and you socialize it. And if you are in an organization with some dysfunction here, right, where you have groups that hoard data, you need to get everyone to the same page. You need to sort of break down those political barriers, or you guys are never going to really be able to move forward. So work past that. So some key questions to ask. How do I relate marketing goals to business goals like revenue and profits? If you're something like a social media manager or social media marketer or social analyst, typically your metrics are top of funnel, but work to really connect them with bottom of funnel metrics like conversions and revenue. And you can accomplish that by having the right attribution model and be able to credit social, as Ferris was talking about, understand how your channels work together. It used to be really easy. You used to just buy a search ad or run an email campaign and bam, you would have revenue and you would have sales. But it's definitely become a much more complicated world online, and even more complicated as we use multiple devices, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then just some other questions. How do you break down silos in a way that's jointly accountable for business targets? So have the right dashboards for different teams and share them. That way you're not just data dumping on another group and giving them too much that they can process. Knowing your customers and their worth. A great way to think about this is to really start to understand not just your users from, okay, this person came to my site this month and browsed these pages, but really start to understand the CLV, the customer lifetime value of your users. A great example of this, if you were to not focus on customer lifetime value, a friend of mine, Peter Shankman in New York, just told me about this story. He goes to the same deli almost every day for lunch. He spends like $10 there a day. And one day he was about 7 cents short. And the woman at the counter wouldn't loan him that 7 cents. She's like, I'm gonna need this, or you're gonna have to not get your soda. And what he did is he said to her, really, I come in here every day, you don't recognize me? She's like, no, I recognize you, but it's just our policy. And so what did he do? Well, the first thing he does is, he was a very nice guy about it. He wrote a blog post on his blog about how this company didn't understand CLV, but he didn't name the company because he's a nice guy. He's just not gonna go there again, right? And so, think about that from a business standpoint. If someone has a bad experience, is it really worth it for you to win and be right? Do you really want your frontline employees to ruin that business relationship? How cool would it be if you're a national brand, you taught all of your frontline people the value of CLV, and you maybe gave them some performance metrics associated with that. So just some things to think about. So starting with questions, you guys are all analysts. These simple questions. Who are they? Where did they come from? How long did they stay with you? And so analytics can answer a lot of this, as you guys know, our product, other analytics products. But something I think a lot of analysts in our space forget is, also think about marrying some qualitative insights with this. Don't forget about these awesome tools that we have, consumer surveys, to really understand maybe a little bit in depth more about our users and really start to get a deep understanding of them. Traffic acquisition, so identifying the channels that reach and influence. This is really important, and I'll get into some reports in just a minute. And I talked a little bit about demographics and psychographics. Psychographics are awesome online. Marketers are obsessed with breaking down the world by demographics. A great example of this, and Ferris was mentioning this to me before, that I was making fun of people who were writing stories about millennials. Well, why is that something we should make fun of? Is a group that spans 20 years, right? Is that cohort really going to have that much in common? No, it's too wide of a range. You have all sorts of people within that group. And so I actually think a better way to slice and dice the world isn't necessarily by, okay, they were born in 1980, but maybe someone who likes skydiving, likes wakeboarding, and is into adventure sports, as opposed to someone who was born in this year. It's much more actionable. So some key questions to ask about that. How much you really know about your customers. Do you really understand your audience demographics? Am I remarketing to the right engaged users? Remarketing is obviously very powerful to reach people at the right time with the right message. Am I testing and personalizing the user experience? So that's a really important thing to do as well, is not just to create an experience and assume it's going to be best, but test your hypothesis. So let's talk about attribution. The belief, hey, would you like to buy my product, if you ask someone this. And a lot of marketers think, yes, absolutely, when I send this marketing message out, everyone's going to want to buy this product right now. And that may not be the case. You may have people at different parts of the sales cycle. You might have people that say yes, you might have people that say, what are competitors doing? And so really understanding where your users are at different points in the sales cycle, and then offering the right content for them at different points. And a great example of this is, for remarketing, right before Valentine's Day last year, I totally forgot to get my girlfriend a gift. But I remembered the day before, and so I went on, the 1-800-Flower site, and I was just looking at stuff. And then I got sidetracked because someone sent me a direct message on Twitter or email or something. So I closed the tab, and I completely forgot again. But I got a remarketing ad from 1-800-Flowers reminding me you need to get that gift, and I immediately converted right there. So it was just brilliant marketing, right? It was just at the intersection of intent, and that was a display ad that I converted off of, right? So that's why remarketing is so cool. Display typically, if you were to just run display ads with no context and not knowing that user, it's probably not going to convert very highly. But if you run a display ad at the right moment with the right message, it's going to convert like crazy. And then the risk, I talked about this already, but you send the wrong ad to the wrong person. I don't have a car, and I don't ever plan to have a car. I've written many posts about the lifestyle of being car-free, biking everywhere, walking everywhere. Hopefully more of you guys will adopt this because global warming and we're using too many resources. But the point is, I get insurance ads for car companies all the time because they don't think to segment me out, and I make it pretty easy to segment me out because I had car-free as a hashtag on Twitter. So you think maybe Specialized, who I have a Specialized bike, I'm always thinking of getting a new bike, they should actually be marketing to me. But don't upset people with the wrong message, especially as ads become more social, as ads become more native and a part of the content that we consume. I think that the risk increases that you're just going to bother people. So stop waiting for yes, start measuring everything and understanding all of your different touch points from display, TV, search, tablet, call center, whatever those touch points may be, to really market well to your users. So, data-driven attribution, Ferris talked a little bit about this. So I'm going to skip it. It's basically an easy button if you have Google Analytics Premium for building an attribution model where we'll figure out, you need to dial up display, you need to dial up paid search to whatever extent. So I'm going to leave this for some presentations later on. So let's skip forward, because Ferris kind of talked about this. I want to talk about the cross-platform challenge a little bit. Users, on average, are checking their mobile device 150 times a day. So that's a lot, right? That's kind of lightweight, too. I probably check my phone more than that. So mobile is obviously very important, not just Google, but you can see every cool new startup that Silicon Valley is funding is either mobile first or highly dependent on mobile. And this is a real thing, right? We live in a mobile world. You guys have probably seen a slide like this, either St. Peter's Square or a concert nowadays. People are trying to document the event more than actually enjoy it. And if you go to a concert, don't be that guy who's holding up a tablet and blocking the view, because it's just really obnoxious. But we live in a mobile world, and I'm not saying everything is going to go mobile only. I talk to some people that kind of scoff about mobile despair, and I'm like, no, you're right. So desktops and workstations are going to be for creators, for people like us that are actually building things, that are coding things, that are marketing, writing content, and mobile for us is just going to be an and. But there are those people that don't create like us, right? And those people will probably be mobile first, I think. And so obvious trend is obvious that growth in smartphones, growth in tablets has exceeded PCs. And so I think this trend will just continue. But along with mobile, we're spurring these types of conversions. And so from a marketing perspective, you should really be thinking about what you want to measure from mobile, whether that's something like a click to call, or whether that's something like an app download, and start to make sure that you have those measurements. Because while mobile is growing like crazy, and is obviously really, really important, how many of you guys have bought something on a mobile device? Hands up. So everyone, hopefully. And yet, I've talked to some marketers that are like, well, we don't believe we should spend money on mobile. And I'm like, you're crazy. Because we're spending more time on our mobile devices, many of us, more than we watch TV. Although I don't see a point in watching cable TV at all, and we can time shift it, but there you go. So common tasks are now multi-screen. We see this in our own research at Google, that 90% of users are using multiple screens to accomplish a task. A lot of people actually use another device while watching TV because TV's boring. So Netflix, HBO, Hulu, much better. And we're seeing paths of that users are taking from phone to store, from phone to laptop. So this area is definitely still getting fleshed out from a measurement perspective. We've got some products already to help, but I think that this is going to get more fluid in the future, and marketers are going to shift basically to more user-centric analysis and move away from the traditional session-based analysis that a lot of people are used to. Many conversions don't happen online, so you might get an online lead that was qualified on the phone, sales closed after an in-person meeting, revenue generation happens in-store. So these are all things that we're thinking about on the product side, and there's already quite a few solutions on analytics to tie this stuff together. But you guys really want to work to have a centralized view of the user, and so that's why we launched a product 2.5, maybe 3 years ago now, Universal Analytics, which is basically eventually just going to be Google Analytics, so it'll just be Universal Analytics. And that's just our new version of GA that is spanning devices. It's basically user-centric GA, offline and online. So tracking offline conversions with GA is really important. Ferris talked a little bit about this, and his team can help you if you're completely new to this and you need to get started. But basically, you can use a user ID to understand that person once they log in to your site or app and really start to see the full picture of that user as they relate to your business. So if you're not right now, get someone to have a logged in experience with your product. This is also important because you want to be able to do things like personalized content and email marketing to these people. So really having your own customer database, I think most large enterprises do a good job of this, but I think if you're a medium or a small business, you can start to think about how you start to have that user ID associated with your business. And it looks just like regular GA reports if you're not using Universal Analytics reports yet, so don't freak out. Data import will let you add more data to Google Analytics, and so we recognize it's not just apps, it's not just websites. It might be something like an in-store kiosk. If you're an airline, it might be something like a check-in when you get on your flight and you're swiping a credit card, right? So if you have that type of interaction with the user, make sure that you're measuring it so you can understand the full customer journey. By the way, my boss is, my manager, Justin Catroni, is a big skier. And so he's looking for a case study of a ski resort that's measuring when someone badges in to go up. So if any of you guys work at a ski resort, we want to actually have that as a case study one day where you book online to go skiing and then you actually buy your lift ticket and go ski. How cool would it be to measure that stuff? And you can measure it now. Another cool example, one of our certified partners in Australia is measuring, they were curious if caffeine intake correlated with greater productivity. So what they did is they hooked their company's coffee maker up to Google Analytics so they could understand, and they also hooked up their project management software Basecamp so if they could correlate caffeine intake with productivity in Basecamp. And I think they saw some slight correlation. But it was just a fun thing. The point is, if you can plug it into the internet, if it has an internet connection, we want to help you measure it in GA. You should be able to. As long as there's no personally identifiable information brought into Google Analytics. And of course, a cool example is if you wanted to measure even something like weather in the analytics, right? So you could have a question, have a hypothesis. If you're a vacation rental company, I think we've got someone in the front works for a vacation rental company. Are there more sales for a beach vacation on a rainy day? That could be a hypothesis that you have. Should you dial up ads for that under certain weather conditions, right? If you're a local retailer that perhaps sold umbrellas, maybe you run more local targeted ads to people in that area, in rain, right? There could be, if you're remarketing, there could be all sorts of stuff that you do. So you guys already know about measuring websites in GA. I'm not going to go through that. Measuring apps are really important though. And how many of you guys have measured an app? So not that many, but you will in the future. This is an area, a lot of businesses will have apps. All the smart ones will. And so a lot of people think, well, wait a minute, I'm not a technology company. I'm not a big brand. My company has no business having an app. And I would say you should rethink that. There's a toilet paper company called Charmin you guys have all heard of. They really get digital. First of all, their ads are great, but they get digital to the point. They have an app called Sit or Squat, where they'll show you in any city where the nearest public restroom is. So if Charmin, a toilet paper brand, is creative enough to have an app where, by the way, they have real estate on one of my screens on my smartphone when I travel, I see their branding all the time. I have a good association with them beyond purely the product. I mean, that's brilliant, right? So if Charmin can do that, you guys can think about that stuff too. And I love that app because it's utility, right? It's not necessarily something that's, I just go in to get deals on their products or give them money. It's a use case that it shows that they understand that they're users and they want to be there for them. So measuring apps is important. We have a new set of mobile-first app analytics reports that will really help you understand the end-to-end value of your users in a mobile app. Everything from acquisition in Google Play and iTunes all the way through to if they make an in-app purchase or if they click one of your in-app ads. So we provide full end-to-end measurement. We also now have a Google Analytics app for iOS and Android, so that's free. If you haven't downloaded it yet, you should get it. It's really cool. You can get analysis on the go. We also have, I talked a lot about users moving cross devices, so now we have cross-device reports. We've heard loud and clear from a lot of users that they want to understand the customer journey across devices, particularly if it's something where you might do some research online, and then later on maybe you make an actual purchase on an e-commerce app. You might want to understand that journey, and so we can show you the overlap of that. That can help you understand your users and how they're actually pathing between devices, similar to the multi-channel funnels report. We also recently announced cohort analysis reports. So these are great. I talked about the example of 1-800-Flowers advertising to me on Valentine's Day. Now what they should do is from all of those ads that they ran on Valentine's Day, cohort analysis lets you see a cohort of users. So basically, a group of users who had an action on a certain day, visited your site, converted. So they want to track, okay, for all those people we advertised to on this holiday, how many of them then later went on to actually make a purchase, perhaps outside of that? And you might be able to find that certain holidays or certain events or certain types of promotions are really good about bringing you loyal users instead of just one-time users. So following cohorts is a really interesting way to understand the value of your users over time. We also recently launched audience reports in GA. So I shared this one because not everyone has this enabled yet, but you can enable this right now. And people have been asking for a long time to understand more about their users, from interest category to age to gender. And this is really useful if you have a blog. Go in and look at the interest category, and if you're if you see a lot of people are on your blog for a certain interest that you have no content representing, that can be really actionable to create content for that category because those people are interested in it. We also have one of my favorite reports, just keeps getting better, the multi-channel funnels report in GA, which is part of our attribution suite. And this is really important as the web gets more complex, as more people use different social platforms, really start to understand how all of these channels work together, what those paths are like, and really start to value your channels appropriately. I can't count the number of times as a consultant, a client didn't want to engage in social, or they were actually too far ahead, and they're like, well, I only use social, so email's not valuable for me. And so you get these sort of biases with people, right? They use the web in a certain way, but multi-channel funnels report can really show you that, okay, there is a little bit of bias here. Some users might only use the web this way, but other users are using it in these different dynamic ways. So use that report to challenge your hypothesis and really understand what your user behavior is outside of your site. And I know later on, some sessions will get to more on-site behavior and testing, but I wanted to talk about these problems today. Real-time reports and analysis are really cool. This is another one of my favorite areas of Google Analytics because I'm a real-time geek, I'm a trend geek, and so this is actually a real-time screen grab from the headquarters of Reddit, who you guys all know are based in San Francisco. Reddit does something called an IMA, which is their version of a crowdsourced interview. This is the Obama thread when they had President Obama answer questions from Redditors, which if you've never been part of a Reddit AMA, you should definitely join one because it's quite hilarious. But they have a lot of people on their site right now. So if you have an office and you have a big flat screen, putting GA up on your flat screen in the marketing department is kind of a cool thing. But a lot of people get frustrated with real-time data. It's not necessarily possible to sit there and stare at real-time all day and take action on it, right? We all have so many things to do. So what you guys want to start doing with real-time data is, we recently released a real-time API. And what that lets you do is take the real-time data and use it in whatever way you want. And so one cool thing that one of our users is doing, just to give you guys some inspiration, is Twitty, a vacation rental company on the East Coast. What they've done is they show, when you're on a listing for one of these large vacation homes, which they noticed it was taking people, perhaps 7, 8, 9, 10 days to actually convert. It's a long sales process to actually rent out a vacation home that's going to cost you $5,500 a week. So they had a hypothesis, well wait, what if we use the real-time API to show, hey, there's 17 other people on this listing right now. That might motivate you to go ahead and convert right now and actually buy that vacation home for the week or rent it for the week for you and your friends. So it created some pressure. And they saw an almost 8% increase in conversions, which is pretty darn good for a site that's renting out luxury vacation homes that can cost upwards of $5,000 a week, and you have to get 6 of your friends to throw down on it with you to go have a fun vacation, right? So that's the power of real time. That's the power of creating a sense of urgency for your users, however perceived. If you can increase conversions with it, that's a great use case. Another example is, I was in New York a few months ago with one of our users, the New York Times, and I was taking a look at how their editors use real-time data, and they do some interesting stuff like look at the homepage of the New York Times site, and they might promote a specific story towards a higher section if they notice it's starting to catch on and it's below the fold, or if no one's clicking a certain link, that's pretty valuable real estate, they might move that off the page. So there's all sorts of things you can do with real time. I'd suggest you check out the API so you can get programmatic with it. And one other cool thing that we launched recently I wanted to share with you guys is we've made taking data out of GA really easy. We obviously believe in you guys owning your data and having full flexibility with it. And a recent thing that we added was an integration with Google Sheets, which you were always able to bring your GA data into Google Sheets, but now it's so easy. My mother can do it, I hope. I think she probably has to figure it out. But check it out if you haven't. Sheets are awesome, especially if you have a lot of different business units, and perhaps you have a lot of different data sources. You can use Sheets as a kind of really simple dashboard to share with different teams, and I'm a fan of Sheets. So other recent additions to GA, we add a lot of things to GA, and actually we just made a launch that makes it easier to stay on top of this. So previously, we share updates for you guys via email, via our blog, via our help center, but we actually just launched a feature release notes on our site, so that should make it even easier. I know that we launch a lot of stuff on analytics, and we want to make it simple for you guys to stay ahead. So that's pretty much what I had. Some additional resources to check out. We've launched a MOOC, that's the one I'll highlight here. Free online courses. Obviously, it's not possible to really get a full understanding of analytics or any specialization in 40 minutes. Spending a day with one of our courses on our MOOC is a great way to get up to speed. So thanks guys, hopefully that was helpful to understand a little bit about where we're thinking on attribution, what we're thinking is next and important, and some reports that I find useful. So thanks a lot guys, and I'll be outside to answer any questions.